do everything right, I would have loved to go on the
Did you
natural
think
route.
of
But I don't
doing
think
that?
I would have, never even passed my mind that I would do something other than what was suggested for me.
How about you, Erin?
No. No, I think I needed the science. I wanted.
I did.
I wanted the medicine. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I made some changes in my life. I was teetering on the brink of vegetarianism anyway, and then when this turned out to not be just a health scare, but ended up being an actual health emergency, I kind of stuck by that and became a full-fledged vegetarian. So I've made, some changes to my health, and I'm very cautious about the products that I have in my house. I have 2 daughters, so I'm really concerned about them as well. So I watch, the chemicals that are in the house, and the, try to buy organic food whenever we can, and try to cut down on the meats and the chicken and all that hormone-driven foods that are in our diet.
I know there's so much hormones in chickens and everything else. Do you guys have feelings of what could possibly cause breast cancer? I know when Barbara and I worked together in day surgery at Leahy, and oftentimes that X-ray machine would come in and they'd say, step aside, we got to do an X-ray, and
Maybe we go behind the curtain.
The curtain
I know.
protected
Now
you.
thinking back, that
it's
was
not
kind
very
of silly.
protective.
We were just so busy in our
Very silly.
busyness, not thinking maybe we should really leave the room or do something else. But
I personally think environment and food intake, those 2 things. And of course, if you had it genetically or familial, that type of thing, of course, that
Which
would
I
play a
didn't.
part. I did not either.
Well, I have a grandmother, and my dad's mom and my dad's sister both had breast cancer at pretty young ages, but my BRCA test was negative. So when I said there's no genetic link, but there are the breast cancer survivors in my family.
yeah.
Mine as well, and I found out recently that an aunt chose to do nothing.
Oh.
And she lived for quite a long time afterwards. But to me, I think that takes a lot of nerve to stand up and do that. I don't know that I would be able to do that. Having, children and a family and, a lot to live for, not just that I live for my children and family, but
Right.
just a lot to live for. I don't know that I would just say, I can't do that.
Wow.
How about stress? I feel like stress has a lot to do with not just breast cancer, but a lot of illnesses like.
Yeah, I do as well.
So if you can, I always try to, because I've had some things happen in my life and I can feel it in my body. My emotions are kind of connected, that holistic view. So I know you do, Erin, and you do too, Barbara. You both do yoga. And that can be very meditative and good for you.
Is that something new that you added, or is that something that you had to?
Pretty much, yeah. I had, before my surgery, I was given a great book, and I'm not going to remember the author, so I'm just not even going to quote it, but it was about preparing for surgery, and a lot of it had to do with the meditative, like preparing yourself,
Psyche.
your psyche, more as opposed to your grocery list and all the things that we moms have to prepare for being laid up for a certain amount of time, who's going to make dinner and all that. But the book had a lot of, it came with a CD, and I think I really got into it then. I mean, I'd always been, I used to do yoga at the gym. I wasn't very good at it, but when I got, better at the meditative piece, and I go to a studio in Reading Center that has just been really great.
East. I go there too.
I
What
love.
type of yoga is it?
Monica Venezia has a mind-body clinic, and it's just great. And I've been to several seminars that they've had over there about stress reduction and that kind of thing. And
I went there a couple of weeks ago, and 2 women were there that had double mastectomies.
Yeah.
They were from Wellesley or someplace. So it would be interesting to see the percentage of women in Woburn with breast cancer opposed to this person in Wellesley, and what's happening. It's amazing. But tell me, each of you, when you first heard the diagnosis, was it denial? Was it anger? Who was the first one you mentioned it to?
Go ahead, you can go.
well, my husband was with me. So my primary care physician told me, and she actually took it pretty hard. So she was, upset with us. But I never had, any moments of, why me or, denial or anything. But I was in a kind of a strange situation where my family was already kind of living in this oncology world because my 6-year-old nephew was diagnosed with T-cell lymphoma the summer before I was diagnosed, 6 months before I was diagnosed. So my 6-year-old nephew was this, tiny little thing, and and he was pretty critically ill for a while there. And was in a children's hospital for months. And, that was tough. And he was on treatment, and he was bald in December when I was diagnosed. So I didn't say, oh, how could this happen to me? Because we had done that in June. Why is this happening to him? That was the question that made more sense to me. Why him? So no, there was never any deny. I felt horrible having to go back and tell my family, oh, guess what? Not you don't have enough to worry about, Mom, but now it's me too. Adding the stress on my kids who were already really, really worried about their cousin, to then have to put this on them. So, but we're both doing really well, and he finishes treatment in July. And he's doing fabulous, and he's my little chemo mentor, and he has his own port. And the first time I went to chemo, they had real trouble finding a vein because it was so close to after my surgery, and he was actually across the street at the Jimmy Fund, and I was at Beth Israel. So my first day of chemo, he came across the street, and he showed my oncology nurse his port, which had been accessed for his treatment, and he's like, you should get my auntie one of these. She needs a port. She shouldn't have the vein. So he was just so sweet. So he's been my little chemo sabi, my little mentor, so he's been great.
I'm glad he's doing well.
He's doing very well, yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. How about you, Barbara? I know when you told me, you called me from the Cape. I hadn't heard from you for a while, and I called you.
That's how I went into a little, that's how I deal with things.
I know.
I kind of escaped and pulled back. I did. I was actually by myself when I got the diagnosis, and I kept questioning, well, how do you know that it's an invasive cell? Tell me how do you, I needed to know.
Yeah.
What does the cell look like that, So
exactly.
I went into a lot of detail with the surgeon on the phone. She was wonderful. But then I kind of went into a little hole. I think it's more to protect everybody else. I wanted to protect my children, my family. I didn't want to worry them, especially my kids, especially. I didn't want to be, I'm more upfront with my husband, but I didn't want to.
And how was Bob, your husband, when that happened?
Really upset.
Because his mother died of cancer,
He said, it shouldn't be you, Barbara, it should be me.
Oh.
Yeah, he felt that way. He said that a number of times. It should be me. It should not be you, it should be me. And I said, well, why should it be you and not me? Like it did. So as far as why me type of thing, I started saying, why not me? Because it's so around us. Why wouldn't
it could happen, I can wake up tomorrow with it.
Exactly.
Or something else.
And I just had to look and say, I'm lucky to have been diagnosed when I was early, as opposed to Erin, who felt something that may have been, 3, 4, 5 years more for me.
You never know, yeah.
So I guess I'm lucky now that I have all these people watching very carefully.
What strikes me is there's no symptoms.
No.
Yeah.
You're asymptomatic, nothing. The week before Sherry was diagnosed, we had all gone out, the people from work, and we're sitting there talking. She looked beautiful and lively and vivacious, and then the next week she's diagnosed. It just blows my mind. Mm-hmm. How the body can be until the symptoms show.
Right. You just don't know.
But
what we can do is just, educate women to be advocates for themselves and get in there and get your ammo, regardless of your family history, regardless about what you eat and what you do for exercise and so forth.
Yeah, I was reading that some women don't like to have mammograms because it's so invasive. It hurts and uncomfortable, and they're embarrassed. Plus, they don't want to know. They don't want to find out.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It's scary to find out.
It's definitely scary, but, like you said, we're here because we went through the scary stuff.
Right.
I mean, otherwise it's the alternative isn't acceptable. Not for me. It's just not.
Mm-hmm.
No. I feel something, but I don't want to do anything about it.
Right.
I actually lied to my doctor's secretary when I called and said, I feel this lump, and she said, was it around the time of your period? And I thought, just the way she asked it, I said, you know, I have a feeling that she's trying to put this off. She's trying to make it sound, you know, she's going to have it be like it's, you know, something to do with my cycle. And I lied, and I said, no, not at all. And she was like, well, why don't you come in? And I thought, well, you know, I lied for my own benefit, but, you know, to be, and as soon as I had that conversation with her, I thought, well, this is the way it's going to be. You know, I have to be my own advocate right from the suspicion of something, you know. So
yeah, I think sometimes as women as well, I find we're not taken seriously about certain things as men. I just can't help it. I feel that way, and I've seen it in being a nurse for so many years. You know, so we have to speak up.
Absolutely.
And make a stand for ourselves and for our children.
Right.
And how was your husband when?
he, you know, it was difficult. You know, we have little kids. You know, our daughters are 10 and 6 at the time, and it was difficult to see them going through it. But like I said, we were already in it. We were already kind of in mourning, you know, for my nephew, and in this like, oh, this is, you know. But then, you know, we had, by the time, so it was June, he was diagnosed. I found the lump in November. By the time I had a mammogram and the biopsy and everything came back, it was 2 weeks before Christmas. So it was a while, and we had kind of already, you know, risen up a little bit as a family, where we had organized a couple of blood drives in my nephew's name. We got a team together, and we had done the Jimmy Fund Walk in September, where I walked the course of the Boston Marathon with 20-something relatives, and we raised a bunch of money for the Jimmy Fund, and we were already, like, you know, doing things. And I had already had my affiliation with Avon and my friends as a, you know, as a support network for that, and I knew how many of us there were, so I was able to kind of harness that power. And I just sent a note right out to my tatas and was like, unbelievably, there's another one of us, and it's me, and, you know, how are we going to get through this?
Yeah.
So.
Can you tell us a little more about the tatas and what you do?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I love talking about them. They're my favorite people on the planet, those girls. They're
your
here,
sisters.
actually. Yeah, they are.
Sisters.
Yeah. Right now, just by our own just word of mouth and the social networking that's available, and Woburn being Woburn, I guess, we're tracking, or we're in contact with 30 women, the oldest of which is 43 years old. So I say under 40, but there are 1 or 2 women above 40, but 30 women under the age of 40 with breast cancer in Woburn, and from the graduating classes of 1991 through 1981, that 10-year period. From my graduating class of 1987, there are 6 of us that we know of with breast cancer. So we've had articles in the paper asking if anybody else is aware of anyone else who fits this criteria in Woburn to be in touch with us. We have a website, tannertatas.org, and we're tracking information, and we've actually turned our information over to the Mass Department of Health, who's doing some investigating to see if, you know, the numbers are as skewed as we think they are. We just think there's too many of us. But we're glad that there's a lot of us, because we are our own support group. I haven't, you know, I've seen the social worker at Beth Israel, but I don't belong to a support group per se, because I have these girls, and I can call any one of them, and I have, at any time of the day or night, to say, you know, this is a drug they're recommending, or this is a surgery they're recommending. One of us has had all of it. You know, if I haven't done it, then Christine has done it. And if Christine doesn't do it, then she can get me in touch with, you know, Suzanne, who has done it. So there's just enough of us. And whenever we hear of a new girl, we just, Sherry was one of the newest members of the group, and another friend of ours, and it's just, you know, it's an instant army of women, I guess, is what we are. And we're really, really lucky to have each other, and I'm really proud to do the great work that we do for them.
Yeah, and we are going to put that website up.
Great.
For people to contact. I mean, there might be women out there right now that are part of Woburn High graduating classes, or it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be, no.
And
we've kind of, the past 4 years, all our money that we've raised at the country club, we have a fundraiser every March at the country club, and whatever other fundraising we do.
You just had it.
We just had it, and it was a great night. We made nearly $12,000, and we've been giving all of that to Avon over the years, but recently, this last year, the Tanner Tata Foundation has become its own 501c3 charitable organization. So we're able to, we're keeping some of the money and we're using the money locally. We just had one of our girls on the list just had her 5-year cancer-free anniversary, and she lives out in San Diego, and we sent her a giant thing of tulips to say, like, 5 years is massive. I mean, that's the goal, right? 5 years disease-free survival. So she was like